The Russian Revolution, 1917, by Epic History TV. Let's go! If you want to see extended content, bonus content, go over to our Patreon. Links in the description box down below. Only £3 a month.
Cheaper than a meal deal, boy.
I shall never agree to be a representative from the government because I consider it harmful to the people whom God...
In 1894, Nicholas II became ruler of a Russian empire that stretched from the Baltic to the Pacific.
Crazy.
Inhabited by 126 million people
126
from 194 ethnic groups.
Wow.
It was a country in which workers and peasants lived in poverty and hardship, while Russia's elite, its imperial family and aristocracy, lived lives of gilded luxury. There was a long history of struggle in Russia against the injustices of the system. And in 1905, a revolution forced the Tsar to allow the creation of a State Duma, or National Assembly. But its power was limited, and the compromise pleased neither the Tsar nor the reformers. In 1914, this divided empire was plunged into fresh crisis by World War.
Affected every country in Europe. What is all this talk about? The people's confidence. Let the
World
people's
War
merit
I was a disaster
my
for
confidence.
Tsarist Russia. At the front, the country suffered a series of devastating defeats, while at home there were food shortages and economic chaos. The Tsar was held responsible for the crisis. After all, he was now the army's commander-in-chief, and he was standing in the way of government reform. His German-born wife, Empress Alexandra, was even thought to be supporting Germany.
Oh,
While the entire family was said to have fallen...
really not good.
It's
Really not good having your missus, even if it's not true, it's just not good.
under the spell of a Siberian mystic and faith healer, Grigory Rasputin. In December 1916, Rasputin was murdered by Russian aristocrats, possibly with the help of British secret agents.
Don't
Both
surprise me if
groups
we were
determined to end his influence over the Tsar. But in the eyes of many, the damage had already been done.
well and truly.
Situation serious. There is an anarchy in the capital. Government paralysed. Chaotic shooting in the streets.
On the 23rd of February 1917, thousands of women took to the streets of the Russian capital, Petrograd, to mark International Women's Day and protest over bread shortages. The next day, they were joined on the streets by workers and students carrying placards that read, "Down with the Tsar." Troops ordered to put down the disorder mutinied and joined the protesters instead. Tsarist officials were arrested. Prisons and police stations were attacked. Emblems of Tsarist rule smashed and burned. The government had lost control of the capital. The Tsar was told by his ministers that order could only be restored and Russia saved from military defeat if he gave up power. So, on the 2nd of March, Nicholas agreed to abdicate.
Understandable.
In just
Now
10
we get
days, 300 years of Romanov rule had come to an end.
The provisional government does not possess any real power.
The February Revolution had been remarkably swift and bloodless, and hopes were now high for the creation of a more democratic, more just Russian state.
How did that go?
Members of the State Duma, the National Assembly, had formed a provisional government, which was to hold power until a constituent assembly was elected, to give Russia a new constitution. But in reality, the provisional government shared power with the Petrograd Soviet, a council elected by workers and soldiers that controlled the capital's troops, transport, and communications.
Okay.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot of power they have.
The Petrograd Soviet, dominated by the Socialist Revolutionary Party and the Marxist Menshevik Party, was much more radical than the provisional government.
Of course it would be.
Yet it supported the government's decision to continue the war and honor the commitments that Russia had made to the Allies.
Okay, that's interesting. I thought they didn't want to commit to the war.
It was a fateful decision that ultimately played into the hands of one of the smaller parties, the Bolsheviks. Their leader, Vladimir Lenin, recently returned from 16 years in exile, bitterly opposed the imperialist war. He also demanded the immediate redistribution of land, from rich landowners to peasants, and the transfer of power from the bourgeois provisional government to the people's soviets or councils that were springing up across Russia.
You can see how he got a lot
The
of...
Bolshevik program was summed up in a simple slogan: bread, peace, and land. And as Russia's economic and military crisis deepened, its appeal to the masses grew and grew.
And you can see why. You can definitely see why it would.
Our tactics, absolute distrust, no support for the provisional government.
I see you. You haven't liked the video yet. Why not? Go on, go like it. While you're at it, you know you want to subscribe. And if you want to go to our social medias, all the links you need are in the description box down below. And you might as well head over to our Patreon as well, where you can get extra bonus content if you're enjoying this. That link's in the description box down below. But we'll get straight back into the video. Love you guys.
In June, a new Russian military offensive ended in disaster, with 400,000 Russian casualties, massive desertions, and the collapse of army morale and discipline. In July, soldiers and sailors in Petrograd mutinied. They were joined in the streets by workers with Bolshevik support. But troops loyal to the provisional government opened fire on the protesters and dispersed
It's just going
the
to make
crowds.
situations so much worse. That's going to make the situation
A
so
police
much
crackdown
worse.
followed, leading to the arrest of several Bolshevik leaders, including Leon Trotsky,
They were all hung.
while Lenin,
No,
with the
no,
help
no,
of
no.
Joseph Stalin, fled to Finland,
Yep.
traveling with forged papers under the name of Konstantin Ivanov. A socialist and stirring orator named Alexander Kerensky became Russia's new prime minister and was hailed as the man who would save Russia from anarchy.
Don't know much about this guy though. How well did he do? Hang the German supporters and spies with Lenin at their head and disperse the Soviets.
The army's commander-in-chief, General Kornilov, believed Russia's war effort was being undermined by chaos at home and deliberately sabotaged by men like Lenin, whom he declared a German spy.
Ah, I see. That makes more
So
sense.
in August, he ordered his men to march on Petrograd to restore order. Bolsheviks played a leading role in the city's defense against this attempted military coup.
Okay. Yeah.
Their most brilliant organizer, Leon Trotsky, was released from prison and sent armed Bolshevik militias, the Red Guards, to defend key points in the city.
Fucking popping shots on the side of your motor.
Strikes by railway workers, many of them Bolshevik supporters, prevented Kornilov from moving his men by rail, and his soldiers began to switch sides, or simply go home.
Shit.
The Kornilov affair cast the Bolsheviks as saviors of the revolution,
Okay.
and by the end of September, they'd gained a majority in the Petrograd Soviet.
That's it.
In October, Lenin decided the time had come. He secretly returned from Finland to Petrograd and began preparing to seize power.
It would be naive to wait for a formal majority for the Bolsheviks. No revolution ever
On
waits
the
for that.
25th of
History-
October, the Bolsheviks
History
made
will
their
not forgive
move.
us.
It's because they started
Red
talking
Guards
about
and
civil
loyal
rights.
troops seized key points around the capital, and that night they stormed the provisional government's headquarters at the Winter Palace, an event later immortalized by Bolshevik propaganda and the great Soviet filmmaker Sergei Eisenstein.
Interesting. Kind of interesting, that film.
Kerensky fled the city at the last moment, narrowly avoiding capture.
Where did he go?
And the next day, at the Second All-Russian Congress of Soviets, Lenin announced the overthrow of the provisional government.
Okay. And that's how it begun. If we are not ready to shoot a saboteur and a white guard, what sort of revolution is that? Nothing but something.
The following months saw the Bolsheviks consolidate their hold on power, while fighting a brutal civil war against counter-revolutionary, or White Russian, forces who had foreign support. Some whites hoped to put Tsar Nicholas back on the throne. After his abdication, Nicholas and his family had been held under guard at Tsarskoye Selo, outside Petrograd, where they occupied themselves with gardening and other diversions.
Okay. Interesting.
In summer 1917, the family was sent to Tobolsk in Siberia, where they lived under house arrest in the governor's mansion. The following spring, the Bolsheviks had the family moved to Yekaterinburg. In July 1918, as white forces approached the city, Bolshevik soldiers gathered the whole family in a cellar. The Tsar, his wife, their son Alexei,
Killed.
their 4 daughters, Olga, Tatiana, Maria, and Anastasia, as well as 4 servants, and executed them all.
Jesus.
Peak.
Russia's Civil War was one of the 20th century's
happen.
most devastating events. An estimated 2 million soldiers lost their lives, while a typhus epidemic and famine claimed the lives of a further 9 million civilians.
Got like 2 minutes.
By the end of 1921, the Bolsheviks had emerged victorious, and under Lenin's determined and uncompromising leadership, set about building a new socialist order. The Soviet Union, created in 1922, emerged as a world superpower following the defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II.
Yeah.
But it would always remain a single-party state, where all opposition or dissent was ruthlessly suppressed. Those brief hopes for Russian democracy that flowered amid the euphoria of the February Revolution were extinguished
Shit,
by
there's
the
a single
Bolshevik
party.
October Revolution, and put beyond reach for decades to come.
Literally.
Bridgman Images are the leading supplier of art, culture, and historic images and footage, representing many of the world's finest museums, collections, and artists.
Crazy.
Their experts are ready to help with research and copyright
Okay.
for projects ranging from TV and film to publishing and advertising.
Okay.
Well, that's something you're interested in, head over to their channel. If you're enjoying Epic History TV's content and you haven't subscribed to their channel, that link's in the description box down below. We thoroughly enjoyed this one. It's a nice little end to this series. So we have a few ideas of what the next one is going to be, but we want to know what you think. So you let us know what reaction or what series we should react to next in the comments box down below. If you enjoyed this reaction, looking forward to future reactions, you know what you need to do. You need to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification button. We will catch you in the next video.
See you in a bit.